Hi, I'm Michelle, and we are at the intersection here of pedagogy and technology. And I want to talk about a little thing today pertaining to teacher stress, the rigors of the job, teacher burnout, and some of the realities of teaching in the 2020s now. So I became a teacher in 1996 when I graduated with my Bachelor of Education. And there's a lot has changed in this profession since I've set foot in my first classroom in September of 1996. And I've been considering this as I've been watching AI now coming into our classrooms and creating yet another reality for teachers that maybe they didn't have to deal with before. Everything has its positives, but it also has realities that come with it. And so I've recently come upon the term workload intensification. And as a teacher, that really spoke to me because a lot of things have changed about the job over the course of my career. And so I've made myself a few notes of things that I didn't need to know about or I didn't have to consider when I became a teacher, but that are now very real considerations in the classroom. Emailing parents. In 1996, I didn't email parents. If I needed to talk to a parent, I picked up the phone and I phoned them, or we played phone tag for a while, but we had a voice-to-voice conversation. Email allows us some amount of convenience in the communication pattern, but it also creates a new challenge for teachers to find the time to do all of this communicating. So that wasn't something we did in 1996. Differentiation of learning. That was a very new thing. We were just kind of moving into the era of inclusion. Inclusion wasn't brand new in 96, but it was a new-ish topic if we want to talk about the broader picture of education. Learning management systems, those didn't exist in 1996. We didn't use Google Classroom or Moodle or D2L or Brightlinks or class websites or any of that. That availability of knowledge and information 24/7 was not something that we participated in at that time. We sent things home on paper and kids got them signed and they returned them to us, or we just sent them with the assumption that maybe they won't end up in the bottom of a backpack and we'll actually make it to where we want it to be. Trauma-informed classrooms. That wasn't a term I heard in my bachelor degree, yet that's a philosophy, that's a knowledge and a skill set that teachers are now expected to have some level of capacity with respect to. We are seeing a lot more complex students, more complex families, more complex dynamics. And while we are still in the same model of education that we've been in since the one-room schoolhouse, really, that is a fairly significant change. Add to that, Power School. We didn't have Power School when I started teaching. We didn't have live online gradebooks. We didn't have parents logging in looking to see the up to the minute, up to date grade of the student and how they're progressing on their journey of learning. That wasn't part of it. Live gradebooks, those weren't a thing then. Assessment for learning. We didn't do retests and reteaching the same way we do these now. We gave out zeros. Those mathematically impossible to overcome zeros, we put those in our gradebook. Was that the best practice? Clearly not. But it was easier, it was simpler, and it took care of the task at hand without leaving it open-ended for months and months and months. Assessment for learning is a beautiful philosophy, but at times it can be a little difficult to enact. And so in 1996, that wasn't something we talked about. We knew our curriculum, but we weren't talking about assessment for learning. We had a time here in Alberta where we did this paperwork. It was called Success in Schools, and it was tied in with the Department of Child and Family Services. The objective, obviously, being for these students to meet with perhaps better success in schools, hence we were doing these. They didn't last, but they were a lot of work at the time that our government and our ministries were requiring us to do that. That was a lot of added work onto an already busy day. Grade level of achievement, that was another thing we did here in my province for a few years, where at the end of the year we had to indicate on report cards inside of the core subject if students were below grade level, at grade level, or above grade level. And it sounds, when it first hits your ears, like, well, did they pass it or did they fail it? But it was more in depth than that. It was another thing that didn't last. And I feel like in the last number of years, curriculum, and I think this is broader than just my own province, I feel like curriculum and what we teach in schools has become a political topic now, where it used to be that schools provided a foundational education, but now we find our schools and our students and our teachers and our administrators and all of us in a bit of a push-pull between the right wing and the left wing. The wings of our political spectrum are far more in our classrooms and far more in our education system than they were when I started teaching almost 30 years ago. And the last one I'll mention is COVID-19. The way it played out in the province of Alberta was that our premier on Sunday night, right around supper time, did a press release informing the general populace of the province that students would not be returning to school the next morning. We were going on a strict quarantine protocol, and teachers would have 1 week to become online teachers as opposed to face-to-face teachers. I had no idea that that kind of thing could even happen, and it did. And here's the thing, everything that I have just listed, teachers have risen to the challenge. Teachers have shown up and teachers have done all of these things and continue to do all of these things, despite that each one of these that I've just mentioned is in some capacity a form of workload intensification. That doesn't mean any of these were wrong. In fact, I would argue that all of these were good initiatives and they were the right thing to do. But the fact remains that teachers only get 24 hours in a day. When we closed schools and went to online, nobody added 2 more hours every day for us to find a way to fit this all in. We all get 24 hours in our day. That's all we get. And so the purpose of my research, in light of all of this workplace intensification that we've seen, is how can we as a profession use some of the artificial intelligence tools that are now becoming ubiquitous and common in our programs, in our applications, and in society as a whole? How can we use some of these to lower the temperature of that workplace intensification, of that workload intensification? What can we do with these tools to make this better, to make this easier, and to make this realistic for all of us who are out there serving our students, serving our society, and doing those things? I think we might have some hope here. I think we've got a win here that we can bring to bear. And I really want to engage with as many teachers, as many educators, as many assistants as I can in this process to hear, how is this impacting you in the classroom? Negatively or positively, how is this impacting you? Let's talk about this. Let's find some hope, let's find a win, and let's find a little bit of wellness time back for ourselves. Because teaching's a wonderful career. It's an incredible life. But we do need to have some time for ourselves in there too. So I hope you'll stick around. I hope you'll talk with me about some of these things, and I hope to see you again another day on another video. Thanks for joining me on this one.